Hello and welcome to our overview of inclusionary practices for the Centralia School District. Together with the demonstration sites at the University of Washington's Herring Center for Inclusive Education, Centralia will be highlighting 3 different schools within their district, sharing each school's journey to developing stronger inclusionary practices with a concentration on reducing restraint and eliminating isolation. But before we begin our presentation today, I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. The University of Washington acknowledges that we exist on the lands and the waters of the first people of Seattle, Lushootseed-speaking peoples, the Duwamish and Coast Salish people. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the many Indigenous people who still thrive in this place, alive and strong. We'd also like to give a little bit of context to our partnership. The University of Washington's Herring Center is contracted by OSPI and is a member of the Inclusionary Practices Technical Assistance Network, or IPTN. The IPTN is an intentional collective of technical assistance and support providers working together in partnership with OSPI and West Ed to increase inclusionary practices across Washington State. The IPTN envisions a future where every student in Washington State has improved access to rigorous and standards-based instruction and improved post-secondary outcomes based on their strengths, preferences, goals, and needs. The IPTN works to disrupt segregated systems and reduce exclusionary practices in Washington State schools. Its focus is on addressing the inequities to improve outcomes for all students, with a particular focus on those with intellectual and developmental disabilities and Black students eligible for special education services. Since its launch in 2019, originally as the Inclusionary Practices Project, or IPP, the IPTN has evolved to address systemic barriers that exclude these student groups from general education. State data continue to reveal inequities, with these students disproportionately excluded from inclusive settings. The UW Herring Center's work within the IPTN is committed to reducing restraint and isolation, expanding inclusive learning opportunities, and promoting inclusive and equitable educational environments statewide. The demonstration sites at the UW Herring Center for Inclusion continue to focus on highlighting inclusionary practices through partnerships with districts and featured schools, who graciously share their journey and invite visitors for transformational visit experiences. Although all of our demonstration site partners feature inclusionary practices, we now have 2 categories of demo sites. The first is the continuation of the inclusionary practices, or IP demo sites. And in the spring of 2023, we were pleased to welcome districts and sites highlighting practices to reduce restraint and eliminate isolation, or our RREI demo sites. Each demo site is on their own journey. Thus, high leverage moves align to individual school cultures and priorities. And for schools to have lasting impacts, district scale and sustainability are critical. I want to now introduce Tammy Jensen-Tabor and her Centralia School District colleagues, who are going to talk a little bit more about the district scale work that they've done in creating cultures of belonging and reducing restraint and isolation. Tammy?
Thank you. We are so excited in Centralia to be chosen as a demonstration site. I think that it's important, and you'll hear more later in this video from the principals that are doing the work in the buildings. But I want to highlight Dr. Lisa Grant, who has been leading this work for our school district. She is a former special education teacher and administrator, and her heart is with special education. She leads strongly with Dr. Jeff Broom, who is our teaching and learning individual. And you'll also hear today from Adam Moline, our BCBA. And you're hearing from me and Julie Athens, our ed specialist in special services. You will be hearing highlights today with more in-depth information as we go through the slides from the buildings. I think that it's really important to highlight our vision and our mission. We live these every day when you come to visit. If you get to come and visit, you will see that this has come to life. We really do believe that all students achieve academic and personal excellence, and we do that through prioritizing students, upholding high expectations, Championing hope, I think, is a huge one in our world, and then cultivating collaboration. Many of you know the James Clear atomic habits. So 1% better every day is what we live with, and a minimum of 1 year's growth in 1 year's time. And we do that very intentional work by making sure that students stay in their seats and can be involved in education, and that helps us with them if their behavior is improving, they're learning. So wanted to just make sure that we highlight that work. Now I'm going to give you just a little brief demographics of our school district. We're a fairly small school district, about 3,200 kids, 565 with IEPs. We have developmental preschool, one of them, 5 elementary schools, a middle, comprehensive high, alternative high, and then a virtual academy for 9 through 12, which you will see special ed students in all of these places. So then I just want to talk a little bit in the next slide about how multi-tiered systems of support is just a key pillar for our work. Coming out of COVID, we knew that we had to do a reset in our MTSS program. Dr. Howie Knopf came on site and started a training with district leadership, as well as building teacher leadership around what MTSS was, how it's going to work in terms of supporting students academically and behaviorally. You can see that, and I have to say a shout out to the RREI project, that we were able to send so many staff across the district. Every building was represented, going to the MTSS conference in Spokane this last summer. We also, just as part of all this work, everything comes together. Our social emotional learning, we have Character Strong as an adoption. We also have School Connect at our secondary schools. But also when students are brought to our student study teams as part of our MTSS process, the RREI grant was able to allowed us to buy these behavior intervention and learning intervention manuals, which are referenced when we're looking at how to support students. It's just so critical that we are looking at students in a holistic way, and the MTSS process is really helping us do that. And I'll hand this off to Julie.
This one's me. I'm just going to highlight a couple of the different professional developments that we've gone over. It's a lot more than just this over the last couple of years, but really focusing on everything from mental health to behavior and verbal de-escalation for as many staff who are willing to come. Also doing a couple creative ones where we offer a lot of different choices where staff can come to maybe 4 of any 10 different topics that they'd like to hear about. So they're not hearing about topics that they've been trained on a lot, and they can really tailor what they're interested in too. And also to say that we sometimes look internally and sometimes look externally. So school districts like Rochester have come to help do trainings on co-regulation and regulation. We've looked to our Cascade mental health outside providers in our community to do some trainings on mental health. Our motor specialists just did a great training on breathing, posture, and sensory strategies for a bunch of our different staff. So this has been one of those crucial pieces of instruction and training to make sure that we've got the skills when we actually are needing to use them. When it comes to these trainings, I think it's crucial to have some kind of social validity or kind of feedback metrics, so then we know where staff are feeling confident and not confident. I know of a lot of teachers who are kind of done hearing about the importance of relationships, and even if it's crucial, maybe that's just something we talk about briefly and then move on. But clearly de-escalation was something that our staff were asking for more of. So that was something that we really tried to do more training on, and we use their feedback whenever possible to have more opportunities for tailored trainings.
I think it's important to note in a district our size that we are able to bring together, every school district has to have a discipline committee, but now it's been blended together with a group of people that started last year in special education and then general education to talk about behavior. So behavior and discipline committee has come together. It represents everyone from our union folks to administrators. Transportation have people that come to the table, educational assistants or behavior specialists, because the work is all of our work. And so I think it's important to note that we are quarterly sitting in a room looking at data, talking about these, the issues for students and how to help them. And Adam, I'll turn more over to you.
Yeah, and I know it's a bit of a platitude to say it takes a village, but it's one of those things that is incredibly crucial as I'm getting more comfortable working in schools. I love to see things like this where we have a bunch of people from diverse backgrounds and different components of the school system coming together to talk about behavior and discipline. And just a few things that this committee has worked on, which I think have been great, are improving the teacher referral systems so then we have better and more accurate data, and then improving our data systems to look at patterns in our behavior data. And then a lot of the times little conversations about where we need to improve our systems or additional training topics come up in these trainings as well. So this has been a great combining of committees. I'm just going to review a couple of our some of our R&I data from the last couple of years. These are OSPI numbers, except for this year, which has not been sent out to the state yet, but it's all reported very similarly. So on the y-axis, we just have the total frequency of restraint, which is orange, and then isolation, which is black. And then on the x-axis on the bottom is the school years. And if you just look at the trend is definitely going in the right direction. And I think we've been making some really good strides, particularly this year. I see our staff taking it upon themselves to really prioritize reducing restraint and trying to minimize isolation as much as possible. And it's reflecting in the data. And before anybody says anything about these not being a completed school year, I also graphed these data as averages across months. So the last 3 years is the average across 9 months of school year. And then this year is across just the 4 months through the end of December. So these are up to date. And it still shows that we're trending in the right direction and definitely reducing and our restraints and isolation. So we're on the path, and I'm very proud of these data.
I think it's important for people to say, okay, so you're a demonstration site, but how did you get here? What was your journey? What was your path? And part of the path started in the 21-22 school year. We discontinued having any self-contained behavior programs at our secondary buildings. And it was just clear that integration with typical developing peers, resource room was the path for them. The next year, 22-23, we then discontinued our self-contained behavior program that we had at elementary. We also added, so kids are going back to their buildings. They've been in a self-contained program. What are the supports that we provided them? So that was the advent of adding more behavior specialists in our building in terms of BCBAs and RBTs. And then we had, like many school districts, we had a levy failure. And so we also had to look at how are we going to do this work. But I think that the district got stronger through all of that. And we still focused the work on what we needed to work on, which was helping students recover from the pandemic, as well as working on their behavior. And so we adopted the CEL curriculum that we're talking about. At preschool, we use ALS PALS, which connects to Character Strong, and then the School Connect at secondary, in which general ed teachers, for the most part, are delivering the social emotional learning. And then as we moved along, we discovered that we really needed to have, instead of a couple of BCBAs and RBTs across the district, that we needed to have one BCBA. And then at elementary, we have behavior specialists that are certificated positions, as well as behavior paras. And then the middle and high school have a version of that, as a version, meaning that whatever fits for their culture and their building to help with behavior. So I think that it's just important to know that when we moved students out to buildings, we provided supports, but everybody needs to understand that the work has been hard. It's the right work. We're on the right path, as you can see that Adam was sharing that data. And then for those of you on the next slide that are kind of wondering what programs we do have in the district, we have what you would think of as a resource room at every building, at K-12. We have an alternative high school. We have a resource teacher embedded there as well, who also helps with our students that are in open doors programs. We have one developmental preschool that's housed in one of our elementary schools. And then we have something called ILC-IAC, Intensive Learning Center and Intensive Academic Center. What many of you would think in terms of the ILC is like a life skills program, and the IAC is more the students that are sort of in between resource and life skills. And so they are included in these semi-self-contained classrooms. However, we don't really have anything that's self-contained. Students are going out to experiences with their gen ed students or peers every single day. So just to kind of give you an overview of what our programs are. And then we do send some students out of our district in terms of to meet their behavioral needs. We are a great partner with Olympic Academy, which is run by our Capital Region ESD 113. We have 7 students there currently, and we are in the process of transitioning some back. So our district connects and keeps connected with the students that go to Olympic Academy. In fact, just the other day, one of the general ed teachers that had one of our students that is at Olympic Academy said, "Can you tell me how he's doing? I need to know how he's doing. I really still care about him and want him to be back." So there's a great connection across all of our teaching staff.
Hi, and we offer several trainings after school on Mondays, our special services academies, and you can click on those links and see what we offer. But one of the things I'm really proud of is here, anyone can come to our training, a bus driver, anyone in the buildings, in the lunchroom, it's paras, teachers, school psychs, anybody who wants to come. So I think that's really important. And again, we use CPI, crisis prevention intervention. We do a lot of training. We have 86 of our staff trained, but our entire kindergarten through 6th grade has been trained on the morning portion, on verbal de-escalation. And we have a big focus on trauma, informed instruction, and the effects of toxic stress, and working with students who might be going through a lot of stress at home and grief, and how that can look like behavior, but other ways to deal with it to really reduce restraint and isolation as much as we can. And we're heading towards safety care training too, which Adam is going to be part of.
And I think it's important to know, that parents are a big player in our work with students in schools. And our staff, are always uncomfortable. People are uncomfortable about saying, "Oh my gosh, because your student has a 504 or is a general ed student or is a special ed student, that your student may be restrained or isolated if they're in imminent danger. And there's an imminent likelihood of serious harm." And so our staff said, "Tammy and Julie, can you put something together that makes it easier for us to explain to parents?" And so we put a parent-friendly handbook together, and a shout out to other districts that are doing this as well. We always, in education, we steal. So we are been helped by, I think Spokane School District was a great contributor to helping us. But this is the page that the staff use when they explain restraint and isolation. And it actually has led to some good conversations with parents. They're thankful to know that what the law is and what it's all about. I should also say that we take minutes at all of our meetings, and at the bottom of our minutes page, we say, we check the box. Did you offer the rights to the parents? Did you offer an explanation? Did you offer the explanation of restraint and isolation? So we're documenting that with parents as well. So that they really can understand. We don't want anybody to be scared or caught off guard. And then I'll hand it off to Adam.
Yeah, There's a lot that we're continuing to work on and systems we're continuing to build. And just a couple examples are protocols around one-to-ones or creating functional behavior assessments. Oftentimes our restraints and isolations are with our most challenging students, and they need the highest needs of individualized supports. And it's validating that when the new guidance for the FBAs was released just this last November, we didn't really need to make any changes. It was all aligned with what we've been working towards. And as we make more plans for how to get a one-to-one, how to fade out that one-to-one, how to increase independence, I see that this is all aligned to reducing restraint and eliminating isolation by improving student behavior and staff skills, essentially.
And you folks might be thinking, how the heck do they get all these trainings tucked in? So we, Julie and I and other people meet with all of these folks you'll see in the list on a monthly basis. And it's just, we are trying to tuck in the same information and align it throughout our months. And as Julie said, for me, it's a y'all come. If somebody misses the school psych meeting and they want to come to the school counselor meeting, we really work hard on getting parents in. It's always a challenge to get parents to come to meetings in the evening and things like that. But it's just, it is a work in progress, but we really, I think, are aligning the message. And the big thing that Dr. Lisa Grant, our superintendent, is also really keen on is making sure that we are connecting to the general ed side of the house. So we're aligning messages on both sides, which is the reason that general education feels so comfortable to come to the table and work with us. And then I also have the privilege of working with our mental health liaison. And because folks think, sometimes behavior has a mental health component. And so where does that fall in the role in our school district? We have had last year we had several mental health folks, but because ESSER dollars went away, we're down to one mental health support specialist. And she works with buildings on teams, on student study teams. She's working individually or also linking families to services. You'll see some links here about success plans that buildings create with students. We always have after incident reports. Julie put together a debrief form after restraint and isolation because we need to when heads have settled to talk about how to do things differently the next time. I think that it's always important to know that we are considering mental health. And I think a funny story is that you'll see the purple down there. For those of you that don't know what a purple is, it looks like a great little toy, but it has a heartbeat, and the heartbeat will race if your heartbeat's racing, but it also will help you slow your heartbeat. And my funny story is that we have them in classrooms in our elementary, and a teacher was becoming escalated one day. And so a student went and got the purple and gave it to the teacher and said, probably you need to hold the purple a little bit, so that you can see that students are learning the benefits of de-escalating and calming and centering themselves. I think it's also important that people say, gosh, you have a lot of people and they're all working on behavior, and what is everybody's role? And so this document was created because, and I think of it as like we're all swimming in the same pool, but we need to stay in our lanes. Otherwise, sometimes we're giving cross messages or teams are confused as to who to listen to. So this is a fluid document. We review it on an annual basis. But this is part of the link also that you can see, but just so you can see who's doing what in our district, because everybody has a role. And from me all the way, across the entire plan that we're talking about in terms of our district's work. And Adam, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, just to close things out, I'd like to do a few shout outs just to the people doing some amazing work out there in Centralia. Our 4 behavior specialists who are now in their 2nd year are totally getting their feet under them and really coming into their own. Incredibly compassionate as first responders to these most challenging situations. And them, along with their behavior paras who have been doing this work for quite a long time in our district, they do a lot of different things, and really just starting by working on our tier 1, tier 2 systems, walkie systems, improving our behavior matrix across the district was something they did over the summer. The unstructured environments, a lot of trainings for our recess and hallways and lunchrooms has been some excellent work. And I really think the increased tier 2 capacity has been something that's been very beneficial. And I even feel the difference in some of our schools since some of these things have been improved. And we're still working towards improving, you know, how do we teach pro-social behaviors in the most efficient way possible? And I think one of the things that I've seen Centralia do an amazing job of, especially this year, is our gen ed staff and our special education staff have really come together and taken this upon themselves to all be teachers of behavior as much as possible, to reteach those expectations, particularly after breaks and after challenging times or disruptions in routines. And it's not something that 10 behavior staff in a district can do alone. This really is going to take a lot of staff, and I see them taking that on themselves to work towards that. We have a lot of work to do continually, but I'm really proud of the work that these staff have done, and I'm proud of being here. And for some more specific examples, I'm going to turn it over to our principals to continue to go into the hard work they've been doing. So thanks for listening.
My name is Crystal Allen. I'm the principal at Oakview Elementary. I'd like to welcome you all to our presentation. We are in the Centralia School District, which is just south of Olympia on the I-5 corridor. We have about 300 students in our K-6 program. We are also home to our developmental preschool for the district. And so we have about 40 or so preschoolers, 3-year-old, 4 and 5-year-old. We have a variety of students with all kinds of different needs. We have students who are multilingual, and about 23 of those are served by our multilingual facilitator and their team. About 14% of our students receive special ed services, and about 6% of our students qualify for McKinney-Vento. And according to the OSPI website report card, we have about 89% of our kids that are in the low poverty area. We have been working on Tier 1 for the last 3.5 years. There was established Tier 1 when I came to Oakview in 2021. It was post-COVID, and it was also post the transition happening in Centralia, where we had 3 elementary schools that were primary and 2 that were intermediate. And that happened in the fall of 19. And then with COVID happening, there was never, the work hadn't been done to make it a K-6 Tier 1 program. And so from the very first moment that I got here in the summer of 21, we started working on how do we establish Tier 1 expectations, commonalities for all of our students, not just our older students. And that started with a variety of different things, mostly a team approach. Fast forward to this summer in July, I believe, we were able to take a team of folks up to the Character Strong conference that was in Tacoma, where we learned all kinds of different things about how to reinforce our Tier 1 expectations. We changed some things, we added some things. We wanted to always be thinking about how can we do Tier 1 even better. I don't think that you ever have arrived with Tier 1. There are always things to add and to change. One of the things that is important for us is perspective and voice. So from this group of folks that went up to Tacoma in July, I'm there as the building principal. We have Holly Meyer there as our behavior specialist, Tatum Salas as our counselor. We have a 2nd grade teacher, a 6th grade teacher, 3 paras. One of those paras is in our special ed program. The other is supporting behavior. And then the other just does all kinds of different things. But it was so incredibly helpful for all of us to have the conversations and to sit at the same table, learning so much of the same things over those several days. I think it helped really build our common sense of where do we need to build our tier 1 systems at. So we're going to highlight 4 different areas, although we could talk all day long about the things that we're doing at Oakview. We really want to highlight the Top Cat Done, our arrival and dismissal practices, our CHAMPS and ROAR expectations, and then how we use data all the time. Our team of the 4 of us that work primarily to drive this big ship. I'm the principal. We have Holly Meyer as our behavior specialist. She's in our 2nd year here. Tatum Salas is our counselor, and Jessica Croston is our behavior support person. But really, it takes this entire team of people. This is not quite all of our staff at Oakview. This is a picture we tried to snap right before buses were pulling in on that very first day of school. But every single person in this picture has gifts and talents and experiences and perspectives that we glean all the time. And it's really important. I don't want it to feel like a cliche statement when I say it takes a village, but it takes a village. And my eye goes over to the very left side of our kitchen staff. There are students that, it's lunchtime, right? But they just have a special connection with our lunch ladies. And so again, it takes a team of folks loving on our kids and supporting our kids. And we take that really, really seriously. So I wanted to highlight that it is our entire staff. We are a students must Maslow before they bloom. We know from the get-go that they need to have their Maslow needs met before they can ever start blooming into a student. And it's hard work for some of our kids to come to school every day, to look like a student, to sound like a student, because they're not always feeling some of those basic skills or basic needs when they're at home. And so we work really hard to love them where they're at, to practice and teach empathy to all of our students. Compassion is so important, and safety. Safety is paramount. Our community has some safety concerns, and so it is important for us as adults to provide a safe environment for our students so that that sense of safety helps them to be learners. Not sure how this started, but we started really talking, it was even like in November maybe, about that whole idea of prevention. And we had always talked about if we could just get ahead, if we can just get ahead, we've got to get ahead. And thinking of Smokey the Bear or a firefighter. And so we work really hard to be Smokey the Bear. We want to get ahead of different things, different situations that our students might be bringing to us, our families might be bringing to us, and our teachers and our staff. All of our teachers and all of our staff have stories outside of this building, and we all come to school with those. And so we just want to make sure that we are creating a culture and an environment where all of our top cats, our big top cats and our little top cats, feel like that they're taken care of. And so that idea of being Smokey the Bear and getting ahead of things and having the conversations and taking the time is really important to us, because we don't get a lot done when we have all of our turnout gear on and we're running around the building. Those are the days where I don't know that we got much done, and I don't know that we really got ahead of things. So this is one of our analogies that we use. So we have organization of support, and at the very, very top, you're going to see that word relationships. And again, I don't want to just make it sound like, oh yeah, just work on relationships, but we work on relationships all the time. And so it's so important to us to be able to meet kids where they're at when we know them. So this is when Holly and Tatum are going to jump in as well. But the tier 1 box I had to make that bigger, which was so great because we really realized, well, we're doing a lot of things to build that tier 1 support: safety, trust, consistency. We want to celebrate our kids as much as we can. We offer SEL instruction, not just in the morning during Top Cat time. It's not, SEL doesn't happen just from 9:30 to 10 o'clock. It happens all day long, no matter. If kids are coming in from the playground and they're amped up over something that happened at Foursquare, teachers stop, they put them back into classroom meeting, and they walk through that, because again, no learning is going to happen if our students are in their flipped lid state. We have sensory walls, we have buddy rooms, we have calm down corners, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. Character Strong is the curriculum that we're using. Morning announcements might seem like a silly little thing, but if I am not in the building and I don't get to do announcements, I hear about it. Kids will stop me in the hall. We didn't hear morning announcements this morning. Did you forget about us, Mrs. Allen? And it's consistent. I say, good morning. I'm so glad you're here today. They know what they're going to eat for lunch that day. We do a couple of announcements, reminders. And then I always end with, please look to your teacher for any further announcements and the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will see you around campus. But it's about that consistency. They don't have to wonder how their day is starting. We have something called the Principal 200, positive tickets. So, and probably more things that I'm not even really thinking about, but our tier 1 is strong with room to get stronger. But I've talked a lot, so I'm going to let Tatum and Holly talk about those tier 2 and tier 3 supports.
Well, I'd be happy to address some of the tier 2, which as we, create and build these multi-tiered systems of support in our building, it has been one of the trickier spots is always kind of that in between, right? That you have build that solid tier 1. We know that we're going to have some individuals that need some extra support with that tier 3. It's kind of that middle pack that we're really been focusing on a lot in our journey this year. And it's been, even though this is only my second year in this district, this has been sort of my passion in my work and expertise as well. So it's been wonderful. We are really, we're watching our grade level teams meet. We're having wraparound meetings with multidisciplinary members on them just to start the conversations that need to happen. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the Top Cat Den in the next slide, but we're also really working using a universal screener to then identify those students that may need a little extra support in skill acquisition. So we're also highlighting those skill groups that we're working, meeting with 2 to 4 times a week. We have a get-go process right from the get-go of the beginning of the year. We actually kind of start the year prior to have a nice easy handoff from for example, 2nd grade to 3rd grade, just so the very first day we are ready for those kids and have a good idea of what their needs are. We're really working on strengthening our SST, our student study team, and the supports and systems there. And that has become a great, it's great to have all those friends at the table together to have those conversations. And from there, that's where I start to create some support plans for some of those kids that just need that little extra piece. I'll let Tatum talk about tier 3.
So I kind of do everything too. Dip my toe in tier 1. I go into classrooms and teach there. And then, I feel like it's a 1.5, asking the teachers what they need and then going in and teaching and supporting them with whatever they need to. And even getting to teach teachers how to hold the community circle. Everyone's into my talking stick, which is just a simple glitter stick. But when the kids see that, they're like, oh, we get to share something really important about ourselves. So that's kind of what I do there. I do a lot of other just school counselor things too, like McKinney-Vento at tier 2, finding housing, getting food for the kids, just meeting like their Maslow needs before they go into the classroom. If they need a snack or whatever it is, all of us will go get it. but just doing those basic things. And then today, for example, I spent most of my day just meeting one-on-one with students and making sure, they have a space to vent about whatever it is that's bothering them, and then creating a plan with them on how they're going to get through the school day, and even sometimes throughout the rest of the week and the weekend. So that's really what I do. If for whatever reason Holly needs to make a referral to the BCBA, she'll do that. If I need to make a referral to our community resources in any which way, I'll do that. And I'll also connect with like the district office if we need further support. So that's just like a small glimpse of what I can do.
And you can see we have lots of staff supports as well that just kind of really getting into the data, book studies. We have new radio protocols that have been helping along with that collaboration across our grade levels. So I am excited to talk a little bit about our inclusionary practice number 1. And in this picture, you are looking at, the big picture is what we call our Top Cat Den. We are the Oakview Top Cats, and we have created a safe space that for our students to land, if you will. So for example, when they get there in the morning. We have some students that just need to have a 5-minute opportunity to check in with them. Of course, we have a formal check-in, check-out, but sometimes they just need to kind of do a little temperature check with each of us. So we've created this safe space. It's intentionally structured to help students kind of pause or recenter throughout the day. They're welcome to visit there if they're feeling kind of physically or even emotionally out of their element, if you will. And this is just one of those places where we have low light. Sometimes there's soft music playing. We have calming activities of lots of choices for the kids. It's not just a play place, and we have to kind of structure that and teach that from the beginning. It is intended to be that place to recenter, so they're able to return to class and ready to learn and engage in relationships in a healthier way. So, and it's at the beginning of the year, we spent time with our staff talking about what it is and what it is not. And it is that safe space to help teach the kids how to lower their stress and anxiety with some calming options before they get too overwhelmed. It's also a place where they can reset on their own, have some individual time before staff interact with them regarding perhaps an incident. And also gives them a place to kind of regulate faster. And so they're ready to learn back. What it is not is a consequence or a punishment. This is a safe space that is aimed to be inclusionary, not exclusionary. We don't use this as a threat or ISS, if you will. This is strictly for that, just taking those those moments that they need a little extra time. And we also, you see 2 beautiful children in there smiling and laughing, again, reminding you that this is all about the relationships, right? And the relationships that are built in the Top Cat Den. It's that relational currency, right? Where you're putting money into the bank. So we're able to have some challenging conversations with kids to kind of, because this is about learning and flipping it around and making good choices. So we continue the relationship building from adult to student and student to student in this space as well. And and also part of that is remembering that each classroom also has their own quiet reset space as well, with a calm corner. So this year, every classroom was equipped with some fidgets and some a pillow and some ideas on how to. That should be step 1, of course, is we'd like the student to be in class. So we created that space in each room. And if that's just not enough, that's where the Top Cat Den kind of comes into play. So it's been working very, very well. We do not have students in the office, as I hear in other buildings, other districts. Our students have a safe space to go here to kind of help eliminate that traffic as well. So we're really pleased about where we're at with that and where we're headed.
One of the reasons why we use this Top Cat Den and we really wanted to provide this space for students is I personally, I want to be a safe place for students. I don't want to be the person that they are sent to when they're in trouble. I don't want the office to be that place either. And so we've worked really hard to have, oh, it's a fun thing to go to Mrs. Allen's office. It's a fun thing to go by the office. So that was another part of it, is really knowing that they needed to have that quiet space. And our office is not a quiet space, and I am not usually in my office. So that was another important reason. Our next practice, like I mentioned before, it feels like maybe a small part of what we do here, but the safety and the predictability is so incredibly important for our students. When our students come in the morning, they know exactly what to do, whether they come off of one of the buses that delivers them, or it's that they walk or get dropped off by a parent. One of the things that we've added is some signs out for our parents. We have every single staff member available visibly. Every single staff member. No one is tucked away in an office or in a classroom. When the gate opens at 8:50 and our students either go to the gym or our older students go and sit outside their classroom waiting for their classroom teacher to open the door at 9, there are adults everywhere. And we counted that probably our older students, just because they have the entire hall to walk, they probably come in contact with anywhere from 10 to 12 to 15 people. And it's so fun that's one of my favorite parts of the day, is just to walk the halls and to see students. And, if I knew they were gone the day before, they'll hear staff say, wow, we really missed you yesterday. Or, oh, I hope you're feeling better. Oh, you're wearing my favorite shirt today. Or I have red shoes on too. It's whatever it takes to build that connection with them. It is the highlight of our day. And then at 9 o'clock, when our classroom teachers then go to greet their students at the door, many of them choose to then do, a high five or a fist bump or what have you. But we work really hard from the moment kids walk on campus until that 9:12, when announcements are over, that it is like clockwork. There is really nothing that is inconsistent or something that they can't predict is going to happen. And that is the same way at the end of the day. It's a kind of this whole system that probably looks like chaos to anyone else, but it's very, very organized chaos. We have a radio system that we call the numbers. So not kids are in the building. And when we would call 57, then that student would walk out, check in with the adult at the very front of the drive line. And then we match those numbers and we say goodbye and have a good day and we'll see you tomorrow. So it's the Maslow part of our practice that is so incredibly important. And we've been told so many times by parents how much they appreciate that sense of safety for our students. We're a locked down campus. We don't allow anyone to be on our campus unless they have been background checked. And again, it comes back to safety. Safety is one of the most important things we do, and we take that very, very seriously.
I even want to really add quickly, in the morning, we make sure that all students eat breakfast and have the chance to. So then that way, like, their basic need is met first thing in the morning before they even go to class. And we kind of bug them like multiple times. Every staff will ask, did you eat breakfast? Until they physically get to the classroom. And then even with the numbers, like on this backpack, the adults will take on the adult problems. And so, like, for whatever reason, if there's a safety issue or like a no contact order or whatever the case may be, or like CPS referrals, every staff that needs to know will know. So then that's not on the kid to worry about who they're going home with.
And the other part of that is the zip tie that ties that number to that backpack is red. So that just a visual quick check, we know that there's something more happening with that child. Not that we all know the details or that we're up to date on all of the details, but if that zip tie is red, it means something, and our staff know that. So as we go into the next practice, thank you, Tatum, for bringing that up. I had forgotten about breakfast. We, again, talking about structure, and we have ROAR posters. So Top Cats roar with pride. We are respectful. We are on task, always safe and responsible. And these posters on the right side then say what that looks like and sounds like and what's their responsibility. These posters are around the school and change depending on the ecology of the building. So there's a Roar with Pride poster at the drinking fountain and at the nurse's office and on the playground. They're pretty much everywhere because we want students to be able to reference it when they need to. We also want teachers and staff to be able to reference those at a moment's notice if they need to. So that roaring with pride is something that we, it's all over. It's definitely all over. And something that we've started as a school district is the CHAMPS protocol. And, you know, one of the things that we know about the brain, no matter trauma levels, is that our brain craves patterns. And so when our brain is allowed to recognize that pattern, what we know to be true is that our students then get to spend their brain cells on learning and not knowing if they can trust the situation that they're in. And so that was a big learning for us as we were learning about brain and the trauma and just how much predictability the brain really craves. And so that is one of the reasons why we spend so much time on Roar Pride. It's a great anchor for us as a staff because it unifies us in what we're complimenting students on or what we're redirecting students on. And then I did put we're a Cell 5D district, and when we look at Cell 5D, and I absolutely love that quote, you know, how does the instruction provide opportunities for all students to demonstrate learning? And learning is not just reading, writing, and math. Learning is, I went to recess and I didn't punch that kid that took my ball away today. That's huge learning. And so we want to celebrate that. And we always want to bring it back to how can we improve our practice so that how are we serving our students? And that is, I will say it until I'm blue in the face, but that is absolutely important to us. And then the next slide. Okay, practice number 4. This is a fun one for us because it's about building our community and building our culture as a school. And one of the things that we offer our staff as support is through another grant. We are able to offer release time to our staff. And we do what we call data dives. And so you'll see up on the windows there are 3 posters, intensive, strategic, and benchmark. And using iReady data, we place our kids on Post-it notes if they're intensive, strategic, benchmark, red, yellow, green. And then we start moving them around based on all kinds of different things. We will indicate if they're a McKinney-Vento student. We indicate if they have an IEP or if they're multilingual, or things like we know that they are new to maybe taking some medication, or the parenting plan has changed in the last month or so and it's throwing them for a little bit of a loop, or happy things like mom and dad brought a new baby home. So we indicate a lot of different things on those Post-it notes so that when we're talking about the whole child, we're talking about the whole child. And knowing that they might have scored intensive on this benchmark assessment, but that's not who they are as a reader. It's not who they are as a mathematician. It's not who they are as an 8-year-old. And so we work really hard to get to that. And that's the second grade is around the table. Sean Peters is our instructional facilitator. She supports that. You'll see Tatum at that table as well. The top picture was us last year at the midway point after we had taken our mid-year assessment. We did a celebration walk, and every student got to fill out a little card that allowed them to brag about something that they did really well, that they've grown at. And it might have just been little things like I stayed at my desk the whole time I was testing. I followed directions. I reread my answer before I hit next, all the way to I made 35-point growth in reading. So again, when we are looking at our students as individuals, we want them to see their successes and their growths uniquely to them, and not this whole we're comparing everybody in the school. So that was a very, very fun day. I'm super excited for February 19th to come, because that's when we get to do it again this year. And we talked about data in the very beginning. We work through data, whether it's data at data dives. We have weekly PLC meetings where we get to talk about data. We pull attendance data. I post attendance data on our social media page every single week. There's data in our weekly newsletters. We look at data because if we were to only go off of our guts, there'd be all kinds of different decisions that we would make. And so it's important to us to be able to anchor our decision making and our next steps in data. So we have some successes, and this page could have been a lot longer, a lot more than it is, but we limited it to the 5 things that are on the screen because we felt like we needed to probably not brag too much. But setting those expectations for our students, and our students know their expectations. We also work really hard at celebrating. We have a monthly assembly, and it is fun. And we do our certificates and we hand out trophies. But when those tickets come in and it's time to fill the bucket, it's like a rock star stadium full of elementary kids. It's so fun. The kids have such a great time. But we really want to celebrate them as much as we possibly can. We have what are called practice academies. If the majority of the class is meeting expectations of walking down the hall quietly to specialist, coming into the lunchroom appropriately and respectfully, then we're good to go. But if there is a student or 2 or 3 that are struggling with that, then we have what we call a practice academy. And either the classroom teacher will pull them aside and practice. I'll practice with them, Mrs. Meyer or Tatum. It really couldn't be anybody, but we would intervene, and we do intervene for academics. We're going to intervene for behavior. And some of them just need to have more practice, more touches on the ball. And so that's what we do. Our student support team is a fantastic success for us in all of the things that have branched out of that team. And then working with our students on them initiating their own calming strategies. My favorite was I was working with a little boy the other day, and his fists were so tight at his side, but he said, "Mrs. Allen, you'd be so proud of me. I used my calming strategies," as his fists were like this, but he didn't hit anybody. And so we took that as a huge success. And, I don't know, maybe making the fist was the calming strategy, but we know that we're creating citizens. That bottom line is we know that we're creating citizens to be in our school community, but in our Centralia school community. And at some point, we're going to blink and they're going to be 18 and living as adults in the community. And so we want to build within them the strategies that they're going to need to be a citizen. And so that's important. It's important for us to anchor our work around that. So what's next? Our SIP plan has 4 goals, and really this is the kind of the basics of it, but we want to have our students with high expectations. We want them to know that we expect them to be a learner. This is their job, to come to school and to be a learner. And so that's a sweet picture of some second graders who were working on a report together and maybe had to do that a couple of times to really make sure that they were meeting the expectations that had been previously explained to by the teacher. We talk about joy. We want our kids to be filled with joy when they come to school and they get to be here all day. They're here a long time. And I know as an employee, I want to like where I work. I want to like the people that I'm with. And so it's important for us to build joy within our students. And again, that self-management piece is so incredibly important. Goes back to being a citizen and just managing our own emotions. We tell our kids all the time, you can have all the feelings. You can have all the feelings at one time if you want to, but you're responsible for your response to those feelings and how it makes others around you feel. And then that academic success. You know, we want our kids to be at that grade level, that benchmark for them, whether or not they are excelling, that's okay too, but we want them to find that joy in learning and to be able to come to school and be ready for the challenges of the day. And again, it's in service of students. We serve students differently based on their unique needs, and we're proud of that. And we continue to strive to know more, to do better, to be reflective, to collaborate with other buildings in our own district, other professionals. But that's the heart of it, is how do we serve our students? And this is just a little bit of a glimpse of how we serve them at Oakview.
And we at the UW, we want to thank the team at the Centralia School District and specifically Oakview Elementary. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and your story with us today. And if you want to learn anything else about Centralia and Oakview Elementary, please head over to, please head over to our IPP demonstration sites page, and you can find artifacts and tip sheets at ippdemosites.org or use the little QR code that's on the screen. Thank you for joining us.